How does karma become our friend? That's the question for today. And hello, everyone out there. Welcome to my channel. I do a lot of different videos on education, and I'll be doing a lot more for the rest of the year. First, we've been starting out by covering mostly videos on the Tree of Life. And the Tree of Life is a great miraculous thing that we can use to kind of organize our whole life, but especially, in terms of consciousness studies, mysticism, all kinds of things, spirituality, all kinds of things related to, our inner evolvement. And so if we can learn Tree of Life, we can really benefit all those other studies. So that's kind of why we've been focusing on Tree of Life to start with. This is the diagram right here. And you may also recognize this as the Hebrew Kabbalah, with some colors thrown in there. The colors are really kind of a secondary component, I would say, but the Tree of Life consists of 10 different circles or spheres that are numbered 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then there is a thing here called the abyss, which is an implied circle or sphere, and then there is a 0 above the tree. So that's a total of 12 different components. And the Tree of Life is more or less, it's like a map of our consciousness. And it's been used for thousands of years. The Tree of Life goes back to ancient Egypt at least. The ancient Hebrews used it. The more medieval and Middle Ages Hebrews also used it, or Jews used it. And there's a lot of Satanists that use it as well, even up to today. And the best way to avoid having the Satanists use it on you is by understanding how it works yourself. That enables you to defend yourself from their attacks. So that is another important reason why we study Tree of Life. And basically, we can break it down as, the tree shows us 12 different faculties of consciousness. And you can kind of delineate them as the 10th sphere is our survival or instinct, our wild animal consciousness. This is our fight or flight response. This is our kill or be killed, the law of the jungle. This is what this is how our body keeps us alive. Our heart beats, and we automatically breathe, and we automatically digest food, and all those things are entailed in the Tree of Life, in the 10th sphere, and also even the lusts and the defilements of the body. They're kind of like a negative 10th sphere in that they wear away at our life force, which, like in the Taoist, there's really like 3 kinds of life force: Jing, Qi, and Shen. And this is, I guess, would correspond to Jing. And then the 9th sphere is our domestic consciousness. This is what we get when we're growing up in the home, the first few years of our lives, where we're, in the home, and we're just soaking up all of the influences around us. We're watching how people do things, what they do and how they do it, and we're imitating that. We learn to imitate what they do, and we have to practice it over and over again. In spite of repeated failures, we continue to keep practicing until we get it. And then, once we get it, we keep practicing until we memorize it. So that's kind of what goes into the night sphere, is heightened receptivity, or what's called mediumistic trance, along with imitation, practice, and memorization. The main weakness of the night sphere is that it's a blind following. So we don't distinguish, between good and bad or good and evil when we are imitating other people. We're just seeing what they do and we're copying it. If we're watching our parents, self-mutilate, then, if we are given those same tools, we're going to self-mutilate also, or whatever it is. And then the asphere is somewhat similar in it's a following, kind of a blind following, but the asphere is where the night sphere is about the domestic consciousness in the home. The asphere is out in the public world, the public sphere. And this is like all the institutions, the establishment, the powers that be, the expert opinion, our schools and our churches and our media, and all the experts out there that tell us what we're supposed to believe about things. And they are existing here at the asphere, and they are kind of the gatekeepers, because this is really where all the resources are. And so we have to give some kind of allegiance to the asphere just to get our daily resources. But at the same time, the asphere is a trickster. So what they're telling us, what we're supposed to believe, is not necessarily true. It's true for them because it's convenient. It's by decree or fiat. They decide what we're supposed to believe, and in some cases they flip it overnight. Where, oh, you're supposed to believe this, but then 6 months later you're supposed to believe the opposite. They change their mind. It doesn't have anything to do with the science or with the truth. It has to do with what's convenient for them, what kind of narrative that they are trying to push on you for whatever reason. They're always having ulterior motives. But so anyway, the asphere is where our belief systems are located. And again, remember that belief, if you have a belief about something, that means that you're basically admitting that you don't know. Okay, when you believe something, that's an admission that you do not know. And then the other part of the asphere is this logical faculty. The logical faculty will enable you to really transcend the asphere. What keeps you caught in the asphere is really the negative aspect of rational faculty, which is all the fallacies that are related to our rational faculty, in particular our circular reasoning, where we use the premise to justify the conclusion, and also especially rationalization, where we kind of come up with excuses for the status quo that in any case it does not correspond to our own experience. That's where we're at here when we rationalize something. They tell us something that we're supposed to believe, but what we're supposed to believe is not in harmony with what we've experienced throughout our lives. And so we end up rationalizing and saying, and pretty much discounting our own experience. And then we buy into their experience. We buy into what they say. When they tell us that, all those lines up in the sky are, that they're coming from contrails of planes, and they don't really exist. But every time you go outside and you look up, they're there, and they stay there for minutes or even half an hour at a time. But you end up having to discount your own experience about it, and because they tell you, oh no, that's not really happening, that doesn't really exist. So that is kind of how the A-sphere works. Now, where the seventh sphere, the A-sphere is about the real world, the seventh sphere is about the imaginary world. So people who come over to the seventh sphere have really, gotten into the A-sphere and used their rational faculties to recognize that what's going on in the A-sphere is all wrong, and that they smell the rat. That's the rationalization. They've overcome their rationalization and they've smelled the rat. And they come over here and they say, I see what's going on here. I imagine something better. I imagine a better way of doing this. And that's one of the faculties here at the seventh sphere is the imagination. But then we also have inspiration. We've seen other people do that same thing, and that's inspired us. We have intuition, which we are able to communicate with a source that's within us that tells us how things are. But we activate that source through wondering. We wonder about things and we get answers here at the seventh sphere. This is the kind of the simplest form of intuition. And then we also have our creativity, the spark of creativity, and also our pleasure principle that enables us to put things together in pleasing arrangements. And so we're able to create alternatives to the A-sphere. These alternatives could be pieces of art, other kind of creative endeavors, a play or a film or a painting, a song, or it could be a intellectual property, or it could be an invention. Anything that is kind of new, novel, that attempts to make alternatives to the A-sphere. Okay, then the seventh sphere, the inspiration, allows us to move up further on the tree because we see other people up here and up here that are doing things that capture our imagination and that give us the impetus to get started on this path. Unfortunately, the inspiration is just the 1%, and the perspiration is the 99%. So when we undertake going up into the higher aspects of the tree, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lonely climb as well. This area is not well populated. There's not many paths that are broken. That's the inspiration, is to find the broken path through the snowdrifts. It's much easier if somebody's gone before you, but if you have to clear the path yourself, that requires a great deal of perspiration. So then when we get up to the sixth sphere, we recognize we've been here all along. The sixth sphere is where we are located. This is, if this were a map, which it is, it would say you are here. And the sixth sphere is our free will faculty. And that boils down to our ability to pay attention and our ability to make decisions. And unfortunately, again, we are here paying attention, but we're paying attention to the lower parts of the tree because attention is a vector. It has a direction. Our attention is directed at the 9th, 8th, and 10th spheres. This is what we grew up with. This is our comfort zone. This is what we have been accustomed to. And so we pay attention to that part of the tree. Now, when we have free will, we have to activate the other aspect of free will, which is our ability to make decisions. And we have to decide that we're going to avert our attention from this area here, from our comfort zone, and focus our attention on our higher aspects, which is very scary because it has us kind of staring into the void because these areas are not well developed. they're not things that we're accustomed to or that we're comfortable with. So we're looking into, into the unknown, and that requires overcoming some fear. Now, when we put our attention on our karma here, fifth sphere, the fifth sphere is our sense of justice, or karma, the enforcement of the natural law. The natural law is articulated here at the fourth sphere, and it's enforced here at the fifth sphere. Karma is based on our violence, our violation, and our wastefulness. And so when we commit violence, we get violence thrown back at us. When we commit waste, when we are wasteful, we have wastefulness thrown back at us. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. As you sow, so shall you reap. What comes around goes around. And so you can think of like a mirror right here, and this is how our karma operates. But if we are paying attention here, we recognize that we can learn from the feedback we get, and we can fine-tune our behavior to eliminate the violence, waste, and violation from our activities. Okay, then the fourth sphere, we can apply our attention also on the fourth sphere to understand how things work in the world, how things operate, because this is where the laws are articulated. It's not the law of fiat or decree or commandment here at the eighth sphere, but this is the law, the natural law, how things really work, not in the human world, but in the natural world, which includes humans. But it also includes God, and it includes nature, includes all the animals and all the other organisms that are out there, and also the inanimate objects. These things all fit together, and so this is kind of like your holy books and your theories of everything, your grand unified theories, your cosmologies. And these things have all been put together painstakingly over generations. Some of them are better than others. The best approach, I think, is to compare and contrast. Find many different cosmologies to study. Different people have had different perspectives on these things, but all of them are valid to a certain extent. And by paying attention to your cosmologies, as well as your intuition, a more complex form of intuition, where you kind of need the cosmologies to serve as something to stand on, to get the rest of the way with the intuition. So you take all these different cosmologies, and then you go inside and you ask yourself, how do I understand this? And you put in your own experience along with all the cosmologies to come up with a picture in your own mind about how things really work. Okay, then we go to the abyss here. This is our psychic powers. Psychic powers basically boils down to omens. Omens are our magnetic charge, an omen or a synchronicity, a recurring theme, a recurring name, a recurring number, a coincidence, an uncanniness, a deja vu, something that sticks out in your mind. It sticks out in your mind, but you're kind of trained to repress that. But if you it sticks out in your mind, and you gravitate toward it, and you say, or you're attracted to it, and you say, oh wow, that's a strange coincidence. That is a recognition. So that's your psychic receptivity. You're recognizing that something's happening that's important to you. And part of that recognition also entails an action that you should take to kind of like open that door. And that action is your psychic heat. If you take that action, which again requires you to put yourself out there and to kind of open yourself up to ridicule and also to the unknown, and so it requires courage. So that's where we're at. When we get the omen, then the psychic, when when we observe the omen, then the psychic receptivity has to kick in and we have to notice it. And then the psychic heat has to kick in and we have to do something about it, which is prescribed by the omen itself. Okay, then 3, 2, and 1 are divine faculties within. And this is omnipotence, all powerful, omniscience, all knowing, and omnipresent, all present, all at once, eternally. The third sphere, omnipotence, our ability to do anything, but really only anything humanly possible, is tapped into through sound synchronization, mantra, and shamanistic rhythm, sacred music. And then the second sphere is tapped into through vision, really being able to shut our mind down enough to go deeper and deeper, to see deeper and deeper within our mind. And this is omniscience, all-knowing, or wisdom, our ability to solve problems. So we tap into that through not through thinking, but through not thinking. And if we can't do the not thinking thing, we also can use a surrogate elder or surrogate wisdom source through the oracle or the divination system. And that from there, we pay at the sixth sphere, we pay attention. We are paying our attention to the second sphere. And this is really like a chance process, a tarot cards or some other form of divination where we use chance processes to communicate directly with the divine will. This corresponds to the divine will. And then the first sphere is really like our deepest center. So the first sphere is what we are seeing here at the second sphere when we can make our mind transparent because it's so calm that we can see through it. But here we're actually moving to the center and becoming what's at the center. And from there, we're able to actually be our higher self, or the singularity within us. And we recognize it as a singularity, meaning that it's not only is our deepest center or higher self, it's actually everybody's deepest center and higher self. So it's a unifying faculty, unifies us with everything else. And then the zero sphere above the tree is part that is not part of the universe, but it is part of the creator. So it's part of the creator that the creator reserves for itself. It's not in the universe, so we do not have direct access to it. But we have indirect access because we are able to, know the creator. Okay, so that is the kind of the beginner's version of the tree. I've come up with, for pedagogical purposes, an expanded version of the tree that includes, instead of 12 categories, includes 144 categories. That basically is just, taking the whole 12 categories and applying it to each one of the spheres. So you break this down to 12, you break this down to 12, you break this down to 12, 12 by 12 equals 144. Those are 144 different fractal faculties or stages of life, cosmology, consciousness, spirituality, and history. Those stages are not really chronological stages, but they're dramatic stages. So they're stages that we go through, different stages that we stand on as we go through life. And if you'd like to get a free copy of my list of the guide to the 144 fractal faculties, just click the link in the description and I will send out a free copy to you. Today we're looking at, each day we look at one of those 144 fractal faculties. And today we're looking at number 72. So just the end of the first half here. How does karma become our friend? So what we're really looking at here is we're looking at the fifth sphere. The fifth sphere is about our sense of justice, karma, our ability to, you know, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction and so forth. And we're looking at the zero sphere within the fifth sphere. So the zero sphere corresponds to a mystery and a nothingness. And this is within the fifth sphere. So those are the two factors that are going into number 72, which is called divine protection or walls of light. Stage number 72 is about ending karmic debts so that we have no longer experience, so that we no longer experience karma as punishment, but instead experience karma as protection. We know we are protected because we have studied the link between our actions and our karma and cleaned up our actions to the point that we know our karma cannot hurt us. We have used karma as a teacher to perfect and purify our actions. Before that, though, we also have to live down our own karma from previous lives, which is a long-term process involving memory. Once we have lived down our past life karma or residual karma, we are now free and unencumbered from trespasses in past lifetimes. We can now listen to our own body. So the residual karma that we were experiencing, in the residual karma, there is a time lag between our actions and the reactions. Those are from the past. We have to bridge that gap. So we have to go through this long-term process in memory to live down our own past life karma. We use meditation primarily for that and things like recapitulation. Now we can use karma as a teacher as it comes back instantly rather than residually. Instant feedback on our actions enables us to ask, how much have I created? How much have I destroyed? How much have I wasted? How much injustice have I engaged in? And at this stage, we can tell by the reactions we receive. But beware that we must be skilled in our actions too. Having good intentions is not enough at this point. There must be actual accomplishments of what we intend. Finally, once the good catches up with the bad in the karmic balance, karma can now protect us from our enemies, physical and spiritual. Protection is awakened further by the commitment to confess to our peers and kin any injustice we have engaged in. Injustice measured by waste, violence, and violation. Once we have taken these actions, karma serves not to punish, but to protect us. We benefit from a reciprocal bounty for clean, creative, non-violent, non-violative living. Reality does not happen to us anymore. We happen to reality. We make it happen. Causation by creating. We have ventured way, way out into the unknown, into the fear, way, way out into fear. But be just consistently, and we will be protected. Avoid obstructing others, and obstruction will be removed from our path. We enjoy immunity and the ability to overcome the resistances of the physical environment. Through karma, individual things are protected, but the chief interest is in the preservation of the whole. Okay, that is the number 72, which is the zero fractal of the fifth sphere, divine protection or walls of light. And thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. And you can click the link in the description if you'd like that copy of the 144 Fractal Faculties, the list, and the guide. And then you can also hit the like button and the subscribe to the channel, share the video with others, and come back tomorrow to find out what number I'm going to do next and where that fits in on the tree. I'll be rolling out one of the 144 Fractal Faculties for the next month and a half or so. And then after that, we'll be going into other topics once we have the Tree of Life as a foundation. So have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.